not forget, and so he was looking for a resolution.
Right.
Possibly retribution.
If he could, if he found what he was looking for was the collaborator, the Italian collaborator of the massacre, because the Germans could not have done this on their own. There had to be people who knew where the village was, who could lead them there and help them in
So
some
the
way.
blame was put on one of the fascists,
Right,
local fascists.
right.
And what happened? The fascist, what happened? He disappeared, or
He disappeared. He knew that he was that he could not stay, that everybody would be looking for him, so he escapes and hides for years and years.
so what happened with his headaches
As he gets further along toward his goal of finding the collaborator, they disappear because that they were psychological.
Finally, she's doing something. He's
Right.
doing
He's
something.
doing something.
He's
right.
doing something, and now is the adventure.
Right.
There's also within the adventure there's that car race.
There's a car race, yes.
American style.
Rather doomed car race. Yeah.
Fiat with Ferrari.
Right.
I thought there was a usual American car race we see on TV.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to go into the guilt of the other character, which is Antonio Denato.
Right. Antonio, who is the collaborator, also feels guilt, and so when I was
Why does he feel guilty?
because because he was accused of leading the Germans to Sant'Anna. It was a mistake, we find out, but he still did it. And so
wait, was it? I don't think it was a mistake. He was forced.
he was forced.
He was forced
to do it.
to tell the Germans
Right,
they were picking up and beating him up.
Right.
Why do you feel, or we feel as the readers, feel that he was honest in not wanting to show Sant'Anna?
And not wanting to show.
Not wanting to show where Sant'Anna was.
Because his wife.
He had just sent in up there his wife and a child.
And a child there for safety. And
For safety.
because it was supposed to be such a safe place. It was, Sant'Anna is so far up in the hills in Tuscany, and this is the real town, of course. And I mean, it's a winding road. It takes you about, at least a half hour from Pietrasanta to go up there. And so it's very isolated. And so he thought his wife and son would be
And then when
there.
the Germans told that they had to go up there, he was really upset and he was suffering. But of course, then he could not he could not escape the idea that people felt that he was guilty.
Right. So he had all these conflicting emotions.
Let's go back to the main character. He's in search of this fellow whom he thinks is the cause of all his problems.
Right.
And he and the girlfriend go through the woods of Garfagnana, and at one point there's an opening up. It's a forest, but it's an opening up, and in the middle of that opening up, there is a house, a small house, and they go in there and they find out what?
They find a couple who had who were in concentration camps
At Auschwitz.
At Auschwitz, and they were released, but there's still this anti-Semitism in Italy, so they don't feel that they can live anywhere
in the towns.
In the towns, so they built this little house in the clearing of the forest, and that's where they live. But they're crucial to the story.
In what way?
Because at this point, Sparrow is still seeking revenge, and he's very angry. He wants to get this collaborator. He wants to find him. And so they come to this Jewish couple, and the Jewish couple say, wait a minute, what are you thinking about? Revenge. We could have had revenge. You know, look at our situation. Look at all the situation of all the Jews that were in concentration camps. But we're not. We're not doing anything. We have not forgotten but we've forgiven, because there's, of course, a difference about that. And Sparrow says, how can you forgive? And so they tell him the story of Joseph and his brothers. And if I could just read.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And H.C.O. says, what has that got to do with the Holocaust of Joseph and his brothers? And Peppino says, we weren't sure at first, but then we read the chapters over and over, and there were 9 chapters in Genesis about this. Imagine, 9 chapters. But we read how Joseph's brothers were so cruel to him, how they threw him in a ditch, stole his clothes, sold him into slavery, but then after he was freed and after he became governor of Egypt, he forgave them everything. It seemed to be a story meant for us. If you read the chapters, you see how hard it was for Joseph to forgive. He went back and forth, and then he finally embraced his brothers and showered them with gifts, even though they had been so cruel to him. And I thought of our guards, one of them anyway. I told Livia about him. He was cruel, very cruel, but sometimes I could see the horrified look on his face as he boarded people on the trucks. I realized he didn't want to do what he was doing. He was under orders. He couldn't help it. So we thought a lot about him. We thought, well, we can't see him as this totally evil man. We have to see him as a man under orders. He would have been killed if he hadn't followed orders. But let me be clear, we haven't forgotten. We can never forget. We will always remember, but we will try to forgive. Otherwise, well, we could not go on.
Yeah, but yet with the Geneva Convention, soldiers is responsible. You cannot say, I followed the orders.
Right.
And in fact, what troubles me even today is that this problem of having a war and you don't know who's basically the winner. Are there any winners in a war?
There are no winners in war.
Even the winner, Sparrow, in fact, he won the war because the Americans came in. He was suffering. He was had illnesses, nightmares.
Yeah.
And so as the other fellow who was suffering.
Right.
So the story is that there are no winners in this?
There are no winners in war, and there are a lot of victims on both sides.
And so retribution is not really an option?
I don't think so. What's to be gained? You know, what's to be gained about?
But then justice should come in. The governments are there to establish certain rules and laws, and who disobeys or doesn't do accordingly would have to be penalized somehow. Otherwise, anybody could do anything on you. And then
I think as long as it's done by governments and officially, but I don't think we can do that and take the law into our own hands and try and look for justice.
Yet, World War II, there was that necessity.
There was that.
The individuals had to go around hunting for these criminals, and then the law took over.
Yes.
I have a feeling that perhaps, even though it was World War II, because I don't believe any other war before that people said, I want revenge, I'm going to go after this guy. So maybe this is the first time that something, even though I think it's misplaced.
Yeah.
We go against individuals who are also victims.
Yes.
One way or the other, they are all victims. Nobody lives happy after a war.
Right.
I think we should go against our own governments, because these are the people who use us to do certain things. I mean, if they tell you kill the enemy and you don't kill the enemy, you're the traitor and they kill you.
Yes.
So what is the situation? I think maybe, I hope there isn't any war, but in the future wars, when a government takes us to the wrong wars, like Iraq perhaps, maybe there should be a reckoning, an hour of reckoning for the government, what they did to the people, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a very serious subject and a lovely novel.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Is there anything else in the works?
Well, yes.